Most painting businesses struggle to close painting projects, but there's 3 sales tricks that got me to $71,000 a month. And I'm not going to show you how to lower your prices or chase leads all day. I'm actually going to show you the game-changing moves that can fill your calendar and take your painting business to the next level. So to start, let me show you the first trick so you stop losing thousands of dollars on unclosed deals. So let me actually tell you a quick story so you understand this point. Well, there was actually a time where a door knocker came into my house and he knocked my door. I opened up and it was a pest control guy. So I was like, let me entertain this guy. What does he have to offer? I hate spiders personally. I really hate them. I hate bugs. They're nasty. And this guy just came out of nowhere though. So I was like, maybe I can get some pest control services, right? Wouldn't be a bad idea. Yeah, this guy just came and he just started pitching me and saying, we can come and remove them and it's going to be this much. And when do you want it? So it's going to be this. Would you like to do a debit or credit card? Straight up selling. No questions. And so I felt some resistance and I was like, hey, I think I'm good. Thank you so much. And I let him go. I just took a business card and he went on his way. And after I came back inside, it made me realize that I actually would have paid for that pest control service if he would have created enough pain for me to say, you know what? I think it's worth paying $200 a month for pest control. And so it's important for you to know that people don't actually buy products, services. They don't buy none of that just because they want to buy it. They buy it because they have a pain. It could be, in this case, they don't have a beautiful home for homeowners. They feel like their home is outdated. Maybe they feel like their neighbor is better because he has a bigger, beautiful home, right? You never actually know. So you want to create that pain. But how do you actually create pain the right way? You might be questioning yourself. Well, it's actually pretty simple. So step 1, you want to ask problem awareness questions. So let me give you an example of one. If someone wants to paint their home, you want to ask something like, okay, and I guess like, apart from like obviously you wanting to paint your home, I guess like what concerns you the most about your home's current condition right now? And they're going to start enhancing that pain. They're going to start saying, oh my goodness, you don't understand. You see how the fascia is looking? I'm concerned that that thing is going to get more rotten and I'm going to have to replace it and it's going to be very expensive. You see how that works? Now, instead of just being some small problem, like I just want to paint my house, you're making him realize himself like, oh my goodness, if I actually don't do anything, things might get worse for me, more expensive. And where am I going to get the money? Maybe I should not wait. So that's what you want to do. The more pain you create, the better. Step 2, always remember you want to ask it in a question. You never want to say, well, if you don't do anything, this is going to happen in this and this and this. You know why? Because you're saying it. So it comes from one ear and it goes to the other. They have to be the ones saying it. Because let me ask you this. How many times have you told someone, hey, don't do that. This is going to happen. And they go like, yeah. And then something actually fucked up happened, but they didn't listen to you because you told them. But if you would have asked, and then maybe they would have realized, maybe I shouldn't do that, because this might happen. Now they own it, and they actually don't do that thing. Or they do that thing, for example, with homeowners, because we want to sell homeowners. They're going to say, oh yeah, you know what, let me actually paint my house. I shouldn't wait. I shouldn't keep delaying this. You see how that works? And lastly, step 3, you want to ask 2 to 3 of these problem awareness questions. So you don't want to just create so much problem until they're like, dude, like, what are you asking me all these questions? Come on. 2 to 3 max. You don't want to create too much because that's all they really need for them to create enough of a gap for them to want to do something now rather than later. So now let me just give you some questions you can ask. The first one, like I said, what really concerns you apart from obviously painting your house? What concerns you about your home's current condition? Another example could be like, I guess, in your perspective, what do you think will happen if we just left your home unresolved? They start to bitch like, oh no, my goodness, this will happen in this. That's creating another problem. Another question you could ask is, are you 100% happy with the way your home is looking right now? That one works very well because you're basically saying, are you 100% happy? And nobody is 100% happy with the current situation. So they're obviously going to say, no. That's why I want to change this and that because I'm tired of these colors and this. Creating more gap. And lastly, one last question so you can take home is you want to ask him, okay, so just so I understand, I guess, why do it now? Why not just keep your home the way it is for another 6 or 12 months from now? This is going to create more gap because they're like, oh, no, I cannot do that. I need to do it now because of X, Y, and Z problem. More gap. Now, let's move on to the second trick because without this, you won't be able to close deals yet. All right? So let me tell you a quick analogy. So let's suppose that you need to buy a new car and you go to the dealership, you enter the dealership, and the salesman comes up to you and says, hey, how can I help you? and you're like, oh, I'm just looking for, I guess, a new car. And he just comes and say like, yeah, I got what's perfect for you. Let me take you. You want this BMW, right? It's gonna be $75,000. We can break it down into payments. How would you like to do the payments? What credit card should we take? Well, what do you think will happen? You're gonna be like, whoa, 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 whoa. First of all, I don't want to buy it. Second of all, I don't know if I want a BMW. What if you're looking this to buy a car for your wife? Maybe she doesn't need a BMW. Maybe she needs a SUV or something, a Toyota, so something along those lines, right? So the same thing is with homeowners. Don't ever assume that you know what they want, because you don't. It might be obvious. If they're doing painting, they want a beautiful home, you might be thinking, but let me ask you this. Do you really know what they want? You never know until you ask. Maybe one homeowner is painting because he's jealous of his neighbor and he wants to have a beautiful home around the block. Maybe he wants to paint just because he doesn't want to deal with the HOA because the HOA is being in his ass. Maybe they actually want to paint because they see expensive repairs coming in. They don't really care about the colors. Or maybe they're really status driven and they know that, hey, I want to flex this to my family, to my homies. You never actually know. That's the point here. You see how that works? So how do you actually go about finding out what they really want? Well, it's actually pretty simple. The first thing you want to do is you want to ask them, okay, so let's say we did come in and, we painted your house. I guess like for you, what would the final, I guess, look like for you? And they're going to say like, some people might say like, oh, if you could, my home can look so beautiful, if it was so bright, if it made sure the lines were straight, you can see what matters for him. Other people, they're going to just say like, oh, I just want to paint the house. What are you talking about? Then you can dig deeper, like, yeah, of course, a beautiful home. I guess like, what would that do for you, I guess, personally? And you know what will happen? That's gonna be like, oh, it's because, that way I don't have to deal with the HOA, or maybe I can have a beautiful home that I can flex to my friends. They start opening up to you. You know why? Because people love to talk about themselves. It's just human nature. People love that stuff. Let me ask you this. When someone asks you, hey, what are you doing? And nobody has asked you that, what do you think happens? Oh, let me tell you what I'm doing. You start talking about it. All the things that you're doing, because we live in a world where everybody's so self-centered that having someone who's asking them about themselves, they're like, oh my goodness, this is strange, huh? Let me take this opportunity. And the more they visualize the outcome, you know what happens? You know how we create a gap already with problem awareness questions? Bigger gap starts happening because they start to realize they're current home to what they want it to look like. And they're like, yeah, I think I deserve to actually get a beautiful home. Do you see how that works? So it's really just about that. It's just one step. Just ask them what the final outcome looks like. And let me give you some examples of some questions you can do it. Okay, so let's say we do come in and we started to paint your home. I guess like, what does the final outlook look like for you? Oh, it looks like this. Another question. Okay, so let's pretend that we did get you a beautiful home. I guess like, what would that do for you personally? All right, they're gonna be like, oh my goodness, if I could have that, it would mean this to this and this and this to me. Another way you can do that is like, okay, so let's say we did come in and we started to paint your home. In your perspective, I guess, would it change anything in the way you feel about your home? And they're gonna say, oh yes, you don't understand. Creating more gap. Now, the last trick is the most important one. So keep watch and actually see this one, because let me share a story that actually happened to me. So when I was actually trying to grow my painting business, I didn't know how to actually go about getting leads or homeowners at all. And so I was wasting thousands of hours doing mediocre tasks that did not get me the results that I should be getting. It wasn't the task that was gonna make me more money. What do I mean by this? Doing admin work, checking websites, doing what others are doing, checking what they're doing. That's not gonna get you any painting projects. And so it was until finally I was like, no, I need to actually do advertising, go door knocking, do whatever it takes, call realtors, real estate agents. I need painting projects. I need to be in front of homeowners. That's when I started to actually grow to $71,000 a month. It's until I realized that there was a consequence behind me not doing those actions that made me stand up and go get after it. So the reason I'm telling you this is because homeowners is the same thing. If they don't see a consequence behind not doing anything, then they won't do anything. You're gonna get, let me talk to my wife, let me think about it, it's too expensive. I should probably wait. You're gonna get all of that. It's until they realize the consequence of their actions that they say, yeah, I cannot wait, I need to do this now, this is a priority. But how do you actually make them realize that they need to take action now rather than later? Well, what you wanna do is ask what I call consequence questions. So let's say someone tells you, oh yeah, it would do this. If I could have a beautiful home, I would feel amazing. You want to follow up with a question like, oh, so it seems like it's important for you to get that beautiful home then. Yeah, it is very important. And this is where the consequent question comes in. You're going to say, okay, and I really have enjoyed our conversation, but I have to ask, like, what happens if you don't do anything though and your home stays the same? You're making them realize, you're kind of like, you created this whole gap. You make them realize this and you rip it off. You take it away. Like, hey, this is an illusion right now. We take it out. What will happen if you stay in the bottom? And most people, once they already visualize themselves here and you snap it away, they're going to say, oh no, that cannot happen. I need to do something now. All right, so that's the whole purpose of the consequence questions, making them realize there's a consequence behind inaction. Are you willing to settle for your status quo, or are you willing to get here? All right, so let me show you some examples of ways you can ask these questions, consequence questions. Okay, I have really enjoyed our conversations, but I have to ask, what happens if you don't do anything and your home stays the same? Oh no, that cannot happen. I need to do something. They're saying it themselves. Another way you could ask this. Okay, and John, I have to ask, like, what happens if you don't do anything though, and your home stays the same and stays all damaged? Like, what will happen then? Oh, no, I cannot allow my home to stay damaged like that. I need to do something now. You see how that works? Another way you can ask that question is you can say something like, John, let me ask you this though. Are you willing to settle for your home staying the way it is right now? Oh, no, that's why I called you. So those are just a couple examples. You can create your own. It's really about making sure that it makes sense the way you're asking it. You're not going to say a weird way like, oh, but what happens if your home stays so ugly and, you have to change this whole thing and this and this. Like, don't make it so long where like they're like, what is this guy saying? You want to keep it simple. What happens if you don't do anything? Are you willing to settle for your home staying like this? I really enjoyed our conversation, but what happens if you don't do anything? Just keep it short. But the whole purpose of this is for them to say like, oh no, I'm going to do something now. Or I'm going to fix this now. That's the whole purpose. All right? Now, there's one last thing that I forgot to mention. And if you miss this, you won't be able to grow your painting business, because without actually getting any leads, you won't be able to practice what you saw in this video. So watch this video next. I'm going to put it somewhere along here, where I show you in 8 minutes how to start running Facebook ads for your painting business. So watch that right there. So that way you can have more leads and you can practice what you saw in this video to close more painting projects and grow your painting business. All right? So watch that now. My name is Carlos. Take care.